Hey y'all, I'm back and I have more creepy stories that I'm super excited to read because this is a continuation of, is that a word? This is the same article I was reading from like 2 videos ago. I read like 25 stories. They were all really creepy and I'm gonna continue the article because there's like 70. I think I'm just gonna hop into it because I'm filming the same day I filmed my last video, so I don't really got much to say. I just changed my shirt so you wouldn't know even though I'm telling you. But we are on 26. When I was a teenager, I once stayed at my boyfriend's house because of a storm. There were only 2 bedrooms, so his parents made him sleep on the sofa while I had his room. Everyone went to bed. I remember his room was very cold. I was settling down when I heard creaking on the stairs outside the door. I giggled because I thought my boyfriend was coming to the room. I covered my head with the blanket and decided to give him a scare. I heard the doorknob turn and the door creak open. Then I heard him walking across the floor towards the bed. I heard him breathing heavily right at the head of the bed. I whipped off the blanket and said, "Boo!" Then I screamed because I was face to face with a dark mass with glowing eyes, not my boyfriend. Pandemonium ensued as my boyfriend ran up the stairs and his parents came out of their bedroom. I was hysterical. Everyone said I had just had a nightmare and it was all right. I stayed downstairs all night and no one got any sleep. I would be like, fuck the storm, I'm leaving. I will walk through the storm just to get out of here. 27. I have a habit of reading before bed. One night, I finished reading, set my book on the nightstand, and put my glasses on top, as I always do. The next morning, the glasses were gone. I knew I'd had them because my vision is too bad to read without them. At the time, I didn't have a backup pair, so the next day, my parents came and helped me look all over my apartment, but they were gone. So they took me to get a new pair. Months later, I went through the same nighttime routine, and when I woke up in the morning, both pairs of glasses were sitting on top of the book I had been reading. That's like T-core. That's literally what T would do. Like she would take our shit and then just put it back after. It's paranormal, bitch. I woke up one night having to pee and I brought my phone to the bathroom. While walking down the hall and texting, I bumped into a girl in a white dress. I didn't look up, said sorry, and kept going. It occurred to me moments later that I was home alone and not in my bustling high school. The next day, when my boyfriend came to pick me up for the movies, he asked why I'd been staring at him through the upstairs window and why I had changed out of my white dress, but I don't even own a white dress. Wait, staring at him through the upstairs window? Was he like, oh, when he came to pick her up? Oh my God, that took me a second. So she ran into the bitch and then the bitch was watching her boyfriend pick her up. Why do I keep saying bitch? I'm gonna stop that, sorry. I was home alone watching TV when I saw something moving in the master bedroom. I strained my eyes to see a man walking out of the closet to the other side of the room. He stopped, looked at me, put his finger to his lips, then turned around. There was blood on his face and the back of his head was missing. He vanished back into the closet. We moved when we found out that the mysterious small hole in the ceiling of our bedroom is from a previous tenant who shot himself in the exact same spot. Oh, I absolutely hate that one. I have to move on. This is 30. I'm a mortician. This is gonna be bad too. My most disturbing experience was when I was preparing a child for viewing and I felt someone pull my hair. A couple of minutes later, I heard a giggle and the door slammed shut. All of my machines stopped and it was dead quiet. After I was done and the body was dressed, I felt a tap on my shoulder and warmth around my middle, approximately where a child would stand if they were hugging you. That is actually the saddest thing oh my God, that one's also really bad. When I was a kid, my family moved into an apartment where a murder had been committed before we lived there. Every night, my big sister would make me shut our bedroom window, and when I'd look outside, I would see 3 faces staring back at me. They had no hair, noses, or mouths. They would just stare but never did anything. Well, a few months back, my family was talking about that apartment, and I mentioned the faces. My sister turned to me, shocked. She said she saw them too, and that's why she always asked me to close the window. I would never be able to be like, I can't look at it, so you have to. Because then you just know you're traumatizing them instead. Like, you already know they're gonna be there. Actually, that's a lie. I would make my mom or dad do it. A few years ago, I was upstairs at my mom's house playing on the computer when I heard the front door open and my mom come in. She yelled, "Amber, I'm home," and seemed to be struggling with some groceries. I ran downstairs to help her, but she wasn't there. Her car wasn't in the driveway either. 2 years ago, I was half asleep when I felt as if I was being pulled off my bed by my legs. Suddenly, I shot straight up and started violently choking. It took me a few minutes to catch my breath, and it was so bad, my mom woke up to check on me. Here's the scariest part. The next morning, my mom said she didn't remember my coughing fit, but she told me she had a dream that the devil was trying to pull me away from her. What the fuck? It actually says what the fuck at the end of that, but what We're already on 34. These go by so fast. When I was a kid, I lived with just my mom. Every few nights after she went to bed and turned off all of the TVs, I would hear a man and woman casually having a quiet conversation in the kitchen area. I always had to concentrate really hard to make sure I was actually hearing something because it was so faint, I couldn't make out the words. This continued for years, and I thought my mom wouldn't believe me if I told her. After we moved out, I finally told her, and she said she'd always experienced the same thing. I just feel like I wouldn't be able to hold that in. Like, I would have to let them know that this is going on because we gotta go. We gotta leave. We gotta move. A few years ago, I was visiting my brother and his family who lived in a very old Victorian home. I was snuggling with my niece on a futon in the playroom when suddenly, in the middle of the night, the TV turned on full blast with a static screen. My 3-year-old niece jumped out of bed and ran to the TV, shutting it off. When I asked her how she knew the TV would turn on, she shrugged, saying, "They turn it on every night at this time," and fell right back asleep. "No, you gotta get rid of her. And the TV, you gotta get rid of all of it. You gotta burn it down." My mom and I were working one day in the store we owned when her cell phone rang. The caller ID said home with our number below it. She looked at me calmly and asked, "Who's at home?" My dad was at work, my sister was at college, my grandma, who used to live with my parents, had passed away about 6 months prior. But then I remembered, we didn't have a home phone because after my grandma passed, my mom shut off the landline since we all had cell phones. When we called the number back, it had been disconnected. Oh my God, your grandma was calling you. That had to have been your grandma. And you didn't answer? My mom bought me my first iPhone right before she passed away. After we lost her, I would sometimes randomly find Siri open with a small conversation on the screen. This happened a handful of times. One day, I was scared because I was starting a new job and left my phone on the desk next to me. Siri was open and the screen said, "What are you doing?" Oh, my Siri just went off. Shut, bye. I don't use SIRI, so when it comes on, I get really freaked out. I don't talk to her because she scares me. The screen said, "What you doing?" I burst into tears. "What you doing" was the phrase my mom and I used to greet each other on the phone. No, that's actually so sweet, but also so sad. 38. In college, I lived in a notoriously haunted dorm. One night, while my roommates were away, I was followed home from a party by a guy I had rejected. Oh my God. He was drunk and aggressive after I told him to leave, and he grabbed my wrist and threw me against my bed. But before anything happened, he was ripped off of me. There were 2 large blisters on his shoulders in the shape of handprints, as though someone had grabbed him and scalded him. He scrambled out quickly, and I laid in bed crying. I sensed a very maternal presence rubbing my back. I was too distraught to care what it might have been. That's actually crazy. I had a neighbor who was a lovely old man. He would always work in his garden, and I would walk past his house daily, so we spoke often. One day I saw him and said hello, but got no response. Not wanting to bother him, I carried on home. A few days later, I saw a removal van and people outside his home. I was told the man had gone hiking a week ago, had a heart attack, and died. They had just recovered his body. He had been dead for a week, but I had just seen him days earlier. Oh my God, he was tending his garden in the afterlife. Oh my God. A few years ago, my boyfriend and I inexplicably awoke in a panic in the middle of the night. We looked at each other, and at that moment, the large frame photo hanging on the wall crashed to the ground. I told him I had been having a horrible nightmare where he was being stabbed to death. He freaked out, saying he was having the exact same dream, except I was being stabbed. Later on, we both heard my mom yelling downstairs. She sounded scared and kept calling my name. This was particularly scary because we lived in California and my mom lived in England. Nobody was inside the house but us. He refused to sleep at my house ever again. No, and I would do the same. That is a very appropriate response to that. Like, you're coming to me. I don't know what to tell you. When my son was a few months old, I was trying to record his laugh on my phone. I used to bounce him on my knee and say numbers before each bounce. When I played the recording back, you hear my son laughing as I count 1, 2, 3, and after I said 3, you could hear a man's voice clearly say 4. There was no one else in the house, and the TV wasn't on. When I played it for my friend, she got goosebumps. No, same. Like, that's just so scary. And you have, like, fucking proof of that. I need to hear it. I know you're never gonna see this video, but send it to me, please. I was sleeping alone in a room I shared with my 6-year-old sister, but she wasn't home. She had a toy McDonald's cash register with a drive-through radio that would play a recording if you pressed a button. That is so cool! I want that. I was dozing off when I heard, "Welcome to McDonald's, can I take your order?" from inside our closet. I investigated, took it out of the toy box, and turned it off before setting it on a shelf where it wouldn't be disturbed. About 20 minutes later, I was falling asleep and heard a voice whisper, "I would like chicken McNuggets, please. You bet I bolted out of there. No, because that's not funny. Like, it's fucking funny, but it's not funny. I just feel like my mind wouldn't go to like the paranormal. I would think somebody was under my bed, like mocking me. I don't know. Oh my god, I would be so scared. Actually, I think that's like the freakiest one we read. I don't know why. And it's about McDonald's. I used to share a paper route with my brothers, and we would deliver to a lady named Margie. Since she was old and lived alone, one of us would take the paper inside and check on her. That's so sweet. One day I went in and she was asleep on the bed, so I put the paper on the table and left. The next day, she was asleep again. Hadn't opened the paper from the day before. The following day, I went in and Margie was awake. She said she was very happy and gave me a hug, but the next morning there were cars outside of her house. Apparently, Margie had died in her bed 3 or 4 days before. I had spoken to and hugged her about 24 hours earlier when she was already dead. No, she like loved you and wanted to say bye. My great-grandmother's great-grandmother was the eldest of 8 children, and her bed was the deathbed of her father. At night, she would feel something grab at her legs, but when she would look, there would be nothing there. Just yesterday, I was reading in that same bed and I felt a yank on my right foot. I was home alone. Burn it? Why would you even want that, honestly? This is 45. I think we're gonna get to 50. We're gonna stick with like the 25 stories. I have major issues with driving at night, especially on long roads surrounded by forests, because my aunt used to tell me a Swedish urban myth about a screech Maya. Oh god. They're the spirits of abused women who come out of the woods and jump in front of cars to make the drivers swerve and kill themselves. Oh my god, okay, great. Now my camera's gonna stop recording. So now I have a new fear, and I will never be driving on long roads surrounded by forests in the middle of the night. My great-grandmother was very religious. On the first anniversary of her death, my relatives went to her home to mourn her. That night, my dad's uncle slept in the hallway since there were so many people staying over, and he woke up suddenly to my great-grandma's voice calling his name. He felt someone grab his leg and pull him towards the stairs. He started screaming, and my relatives came out in the hall, but they didn't see anything. Why would she do that to you? That's like so scary. Like grab you, drag you down the fucking hallway, throw you down the stairs? Grandma? When my dad was 4 years old, he went walking with his father outside. He stopped all of a sudden and said, "I just saw Grandma. She was waving goodbye." 2 minutes later, they got a call that my grandfather's mom had passed away. What the fuck? Okay, and a couple more. My parents are from the Dominican Republic, so stories of voodoo are common. One day, my father was walking home from school and he heard shuffling coming from a nearby farm. When he turned to look, there was a man walking in the field with blood dripping from his mouth and a dead look in his eyes. Later, my father found out from the newspaper that the man had been reported missing for 2 weeks and the coroner had confirmed his death 4 days earlier. My father still swears to this day that dark magic had a part in it. No. Last but not least, 50. My aunt told us that her husband used to wake up in the middle of the night because he would hear footsteps or chains dragging on the floor. One night he was fully awake and someone started choking him. He tried to fight them off, but there was nothing there. The next day he had bruises on his throat. No, and we're done. I think there's like 17-ish, because there's 67, we got to 50. There's 17, no, wait, what? Yeah, 17 more stories, so we will read those like probably next week or something. I like these stories. I think they're really cool, so I'm going to read all of them. But if you guys have any creepy, weird paranormal stories that you want to share with me or the community, I will have my subreddit linked down below. I'm very proud of myself for filming 2 videos in one day, because if I didn't do this, I would only have 1 video this week, and I can't do that again. It's Christmas. I owe you guys a gift, and I'm your gift. Unfortunately though, there will not be any rambles at the end of this, so I cannot give you the gift of me yapping, because I did film 2 videos today, so I did all my rambling in the last video, so I have nothing to say, but I'm gonna go. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye.